It didn't happen the way movies show it. There was no screaming, no violent thrashing, no guttural voices coming from my throat. It was quieter than that. It started slowly, softly, in a way that made me think I was just tired or stressed. The real horror was that I felt all of it, and I remember every second. The first sign was losing time. I would look at the clock, blink, and find out an hour had passed. I blamed it on sleep, on zoning out, on being overworked. It made sense. Everyone loses time now and then, but it kept happening. Not just once or twice a week. Every day. Then several times a day. Then, at night. One morning, I woke up standing in the kitchen. The stove was on. A pot was boiling, full of water, nothing else. I was just staring at it, my hands flat on the counter. My mouth was dry, and I felt like I hadn't blinked in minutes. When I walked back to the bedroom, I found the bedsheets folded perfectly. I don't fold my sheets. I barely make the bed. That was when I stopped brushing it off. I tried setting up my phone to record overnight. I placed it on my desk, pointed toward the bed. I expected it to catch me rolling around, maybe talking in my sleep. But when I checked the video the next day, I was already gone by midnight. The frame showed my bed, empty. Then, at 2:03 a.m., I walked back into the shot. My posture was wrong, too straight, my arms hanging stiff. I stood at the edge of the bed and looked at the camera. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just stood there for 6 minutes. Then I sat down on the floor, facing away from the bed, and didn't move until sunrise. I don't remember any of it. After that, I stopped filming. I didn't want to know what else I was doing. I started sleeping with the lights on and the door locked. It didn't help. I began waking up with dirt under my nails, scratches on my forearms. Once, my knees were bruised like I'd been kneeling on concrete. My shoes were wet, even though it hadn't rained in days. I found a notebook under the bed that didn't belong to me. It was filled with writing I couldn't recognize, symbols that looked burned into the paper, pages torn at the corners. The edges were smudged with something dark. Some of the writing looked like it was done with something that wasn't ink. I kept it sealed in a drawer after that. But the drawer was open the next morning. The notebook was on my pillow. I tried staying awake for as long as I could. I drank coffee until my hands shook. I walked in circles through my apartment just to stay alert. I thought if I could stay awake long enough, I would catch myself slipping. But it didn't matter. I must have passed out eventually. I woke up outside, in the woods near my apartment complex. It was still dark, and I was sitting against a tree. My shoes were gone. My hands were covered in dried mud. My clothes smelled like smoke. My phone was in my pocket, battery drained. When I got home, the door was unlocked, lights off. Everything inside exactly as I left it. Nothing broken, nothing stolen. But the mirror in the hallway was cracked. A single line running from top to bottom, perfectly straight. I started hearing things after that. Not out loud, not at first, just inside my thoughts. Not words, impressions, ideas that didn't feel like mine. They came in quiet moments, while brushing my teeth, while washing dishes. I'd feel something slip in, something behind the usual rhythm of my thoughts, like a second voice watching everything I did. And then I began to speak in my sleep. I only know because one night I caught myself mid-sentence. I was sitting up in bed. My jaw was clenched. My tongue was moving. But the sound coming out was low and flat, like air pushed through dead lungs. The voice wasn't mine. It didn't stop when I woke up. My body was awake, but my mouth kept moving, like something was still inside. It took almost 30 seconds before it stopped. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. There were new thoughts the next morning. Not random ones. Specific, detailed. Ideas I had never considered. Phrases I had never spoken. Sometimes in another language. Sometimes in no language at all. Just sound. But I understood them. That was the worst part. I understood everything. like something else inside me was making space for itself and letting me listen while it worked. I stopped trying to fight it, not because I gave up, but because I was starting to lose track of which thoughts were mine and which were its. I began to like the stillness, the calm, the silence that came when I let go for a while. I didn't want to tell anyone, but someone else noticed. The first person who said something was a neighbor. He stopped me in the stairwell one morning, hand on the rail, eyes heavy like he hadn't slept. He said I had been walking in and out of the building at strange hours, always barefoot, always quiet. He asked if I was okay. I said I was just restless. He didn't believe me. He never spoke to me again after that. The second was a friend. She left a voicemail after I missed her call. Her voice was tight, confused. She asked if I had meant what I said the night before. I didn't know what she was talking about. I checked my call history. We had spoken for 13 minutes around 2 in the morning. I don't remember any of it. When I tried to ask her what I had said, she wouldn't tell me. She just said it didn't sound like me. I started finding markings around the apartment. Not scratches, not random stains. Symbols, drawn lightly in dust or traced across the fogged mirror after a shower. One on the fridge door, drawn with the condensation from a cold bottle. None of them made sense to me, but they looked familiar, like I had seen them in a dream I couldn't fully remember. I erased them every time, scrubbed them until the surfaces were clean, but they came back in new places. Sometimes drawn on the back of my hand in ink I didn't own, sometimes carved faintly into soap. Once, written inside the pocket of my jeans, in small, neat letters. The notebook I found under the bed kept reappearing, even after I threw it away, burned it. Once I left it in a dumpster across town, and the next day it was in the center of my kitchen table, open to a page I hadn't seen before. It showed a figure, drawn in dark ink. No face, long arms, curved back. A circle behind it, surrounded by smaller marks. I didn't recognize the symbols, but I knew what they meant. It was waiting for something, something almost ready. I started staying out during the night, sleeping in the car, sitting in parking lots, driving without direction just to stay away from my apartment. But the thing inside didn't need the apartment. It was already with me. It used my eyes. It slipped into my thoughts, like a second pulse. I would feel it stretch, like it was testing how much of me it could reach at once. There were moments I couldn't move, and others where I moved too easily, like my limbs belonged to someone else. I began to feel pressure on the back of my neck, like something standing too close. No breath, no touch, just presence. One night, I drove until the tank was nearly empty. I parked near a gas station that had already closed. I tilted the seat back and closed my eyes for what felt like a few seconds. When I opened them again, I was behind the building, standing, barefoot, facing the woods. The car was still running. My feet were muddy. My hands were shaking. I walked back to the car and drove home without remembering the first 10 minutes of the road. I stopped trying to run after that. I stayed inside, kept the lights on, left the doors unlocked. Let it happen. Whatever it was doing, I let it take the time it needed. Then, one night, I woke up different. Everything felt sharp, every sound louder, every surface brighter. My thoughts were clean, organized, not racing. The air felt easier to breathe. My chest didn't hurt anymore. The weight I had carried for weeks was gone. But it wasn't peace. It was quiet because something had finished. The possession wasn't about control. It was about making space. Whatever was inside me had rearranged the parts it needed and left the rest behind. I could still feel it somewhere nearby. Not inside, not far. Close enough that I knew it was watching. And now, something strange has started. People around me hesitate before speaking. Some glance at me like they recognize something. Others avoid eye contact entirely. The neighbor won't leave his apartment when I walk by. My reflection looks slower than I am. Sometimes it smiles before I do. The marks are gone, but I don't feel alone. I remember everything, every second it was in me, every thought that was not my own, every image, every word it used to carve itself into my body. And I think it left something behind, not a trace, a doorway, and something is still walking through it.